There are reports this morning, you'll know if you've been watching the show, that chemical weapons are now being used in the Ukrainian city of Mariupol. And it's just hours away, that city, from falling to Russian troops.
The Defence Minister James Heappey has said if it's confirmed, the UK response will be carefully considered with all options on the table. And to explain what that might mean, he joins us now. A very good morning to you, James Heappey.
Good morning.
Good morning. The Foreign Secretary, Liz Truss, has also said that if this is found to be true, then the British government will hold Vladimir Putin and the regime to account. I suppose the obvious question is, what does that mean practically?
Well, all options are on the table, and beyond that, I think some ambiguity is very helpful.
Well, we're never going to get them, are we? I mean, as and when this thing's over, eventually, the Russian troops responsible for these atrocities will be back on Russian soil. President Putin ain't going to be making any foreign trips anytime soon. Neither are his military. I mean, how can we hold these monsters to account for what they've done? How is it going to be possible?
I see. Sorry. So my first answer really referred to what could be the economic or military response to the use of chemical weapons. In terms of holding to account those responsible for their use, and frankly, Richard, holding people to account for so many other war crimes that have been committed over the last 6 weeks, actually, I have some confidence that given that all of these events are being carefully catalogued, that the international criminal courts will be able to do their thing. And there is precedent. The leaders of in the conflict in the former Yugoslavia in the early and mid-90s have been held to account at the international courts.
And if guilty verdicts ultimately were returned in reasonably short order, what would we do in terms of our relationship with Russia? If you've got a nation state, a powerful, large nation state like Russia, that is found guilty, effectively, of the most appalling war crimes since Nazi Germany, how do we treat them? Do we talk to them? Do we simply excommunicate them from the international community? What are the penalties?
Well, look, I mean, Russia is already isolated internationally. It is being hit very, very hard with economic sanctions that are really starting to bite. And the world, really, it's not just the West, the world is working to support Ukraine in their military efforts against the Russians. So I think relationships are already rock bottom. Everybody is very clear within NATO, within the Western Alliance, on who we're backing in this. And, what will need to happen at the end of all of this is there will be with any luck, the Ukrainians will restore the territorial integrity of their country. Russia will have failed in Ukraine, and Putin will then have to account to the Russian people for the vast expense of the war, the damage it's caused to the Russian economy, and most importantly of all, the catastrophic loss of life that he has inflicted on his armed forces. And there'll be many, many mothers, wives, girlfriends, sisters, families who will want answers for why their husbands, sons, boyfriends were so unnecessarily sent to their deaths. Now, what that means for Putin within Russia, who knows? Putin has a vice-like grip on the Russian media. But the truth will out. He will be held to account internationally, but I suspect he'll be held to account domestically as well.
From a military point of view, given your personal background, understanding warfare from the front line, when President Zelensky says that Mariupol's been destroyed, there are tens of thousands dead, but despite this, the Russians are not stopping their offensive. Militarily, what is the point of the Russians doubling their troop numbers in Mariupol when it's already at this point of complete and utter devastation?
Well, because they're meeting such ferocity of resistance that I suspect if they were to simply bypass Mariupol, they would give the tenacious troops that are in there the opportunity to resupply and to attack them in their flank or in their rear. And so they will want to try to complete the defeat of Mariupol. And I think they're working towards this. Your viewers can see on the map you're showing the coast of the Sea of Azov, which is the sea to the north of Crimea and just to the south of Mariupol, is very strategically important to the Russians. They're trying to build a land corridor between Crimea and the Donbass and Russia and secure a water supply for Crimea. So that's why they're investing so heavily in that part of Ukraine.
All right.
It's good that they've clearly overextended in their original plan. They've moved away from Kyiv and central Ukraine, but now we need to help prepare the Ukrainians for what's to come in the Donbass.
Meanwhile, domestic politics in this country continues apace. I'm sure you'll have seen the interview that the Labour leader Keir Starmer gave to The Guardian this morning, which, to summarise, in effect, he says that Sunak, the Chancellor, is an out-of-touch hypocrite over tax avoidance, but he goes on to develop a very interesting argument to say that basically there are some people, and Sunak, he says, is one of them, who are simply too rich to be in public life. That he's got 4 cars, he has apparently 4 different... I'm quoting Starmer here. He's got 4 cars, 4 different kinds of bread in his house. We know that he has 4 properties, and that puts him beyond the pale in terms of being able to understand what real life is like. Do you think there is any argument to say that some people are simply too wealthy to be public figures?
Well, I mean, firstly, straightforwardly, I don't think that wealth means that somehow you can't have empathy, and empathy is what matters in politics. You can't... Any politician who tries to tell you that they've led the life of every man, woman and child in their constituency is straight up lying. We all have different experiences in life from which we try to do some good in public life. But equally, you know, how many times have we heard in the media politicians be criticised that they couldn't organise a party in a brewery, that they wouldn't be able to run a company in the outside world, that, you know, politics is full of incompetence? Well, when we've got someone who has had a very successful career on the outside and has received all of the trappings that come with that success, and then we find them in a ministerial role that is directly relevant to their experience beforehand in which they've been successful, somehow the leader of the opposition takes that as an opportunity to be critical. Yes. I find that ridiculous.
Do you, though? But I suppose the point that's being made is, at a time when he has found a way to reduce his tax bill by perhaps £20 million for him and his wife, it is exactly at the same time as he has insisted on not giving that extra £20 on universal credit, exactly at the same time as he insisted on the national insurance hike. And our viewers have been responding to this question all morning. And I can honestly tell you, so many people feel that this is a moment where they say, this is one person, I totally agree, super rich MPs do not understand how hard it is for everyday people. They don't have to choose to heat or to eat. There is a problem here, isn't there, for the Tory party now?
Well, look, I mean, I worry about going into my overdraft each month, and yet I earn a very good salary. That doesn't mean that I am somehow facing anything like the hardship that I see every single week with the problems people bring to me in my surgery. And it doesn't make me any less or more motivated to help them. It's my job to do it, my duty to do it. I enjoy that service that I provide to my constituents. I want to do my best as a public servant. And frankly, my experience before coming into politics, I think, makes me half qualified to do the job I'm doing here in the Ministry of Defence. But it doesn't make me any less capable or empathetic with my constituents if they bring me an issue that doesn't in any way relate to defence matters. In
a word, is Rishi Sunak empathetic to the public's problems right now? In a word, yes or no?
Yes, I think he absolutely is. And if I may, I just wanted to put something you just said in the context of the debate you were having previously, which was a fierce debate about kind of the equality between husband and wife within a marriage. And it's slightly unedifying to take Rishi's wife's tax affairs and to make them his. She's perfectly capable of having her own tax affairs. And actually, I think it is an incredible act of loyalty on her part that she's changed a perfectly legal tax arrangement as a non-domiciled foreign national out of loyalty to her husband. But that is starkly at odds with the tone of the debate you were just having before I came on.
Okay, well,
that's a fair point.
It's a show that brings up many questions, James Heappey, as you know. Thank you so much.
Thanks for your time.
If it wasn't so serious, I'd ask you who did the chores in your household, but that's for another time.
You'll be glad we...
Equal.
Very equal. OK.
OK, well, we all say that, don't we?